What do you call two guys that were there when this happened?
Back to return at Spurlock. Michael Spurlock at the 10. He's to the 20. He's to the 25. For the 30. To the 40-yard line. We could see history. 50, 40, to the 30-yard line. Run, Michael, run, Michael, run, Michael, run. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. There you go.
And that.
Shotgun set. 3 receivers left. Here's the snap, and the blitzer is picked up. Brady underneath. Caught ball. Evans. He has the record at the 11-yard line. Mike Evans becomes the first NFL player in league history to record 1,000 yards or more in his first 7 seasons and won a throw by Brady. Congratulations, Mike Evans.
Who can forget?
Gannon looking, Gannon throws up the middle. That's intercepted at the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Derek Brooks, the most valuable player in the National Football League. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. Here's the snap. Mahomes running to his right. Look out. He may run. Mahomes directly. Goes toward the end down. Battle intercepted. Picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world, and we still have 1:33 to go. Devin White, what a great second season. That's it for KC. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock.
We call them the Salty Dogs.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Salty Dogs podcast. Particularly, I think we're going to enjoy this one a lot. I'm Scott Smith.
I'm Jeff Ryan. We're the Salty Dogs. I know.
Just jump in and steal my line.
I am. I'm in that kind of mode today.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to have a good time. Now I don't.
Well,
if you're going to be acting like this.
Yeah, get ready.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
But we're in a great mood, right?
We are.
Is there a better feeling than the Bucs beating the Saints in New Orleans?
Oh, no, there's nothing better than that. It just warms my heart.
I mean, I feel like everybody on the bus and the plane after that, anytime it happens, is just like, I mean, this will keep me flying for days.
Well, the best part about it is that, they do this little snarly stuff on the video boards, like New Orleans is known for this and Florida. And I thought it got a little personal, little heavy digs on the Tampa Bay area. And so.
Like what? Give an example.
Well, like, the food, New Orleans is all about the food. Then us, they're kind of like, a Cuban sandwiches. I'm like, come on.
Cuban sandwich is pretty great.
I think so too, and that's variety. That's what New Orleans is known for, is food that has a lot of variety.
With New Orleans.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But that doesn't mean Cuban sandwiches are bad.
No, absolutely not.
They're great.
Yeah, but what I loved the best about it, out of the whole thing, was how the fans left so early. It was great. Yeah. No matter how much crowd noise they create, it wasn't there. We
did have some procedural penalties, though, which we didn't admit. Well, they weren't all procedural penalties. That was a lot of penalties.
But I don't know. I want to do some research. I
think, get yourself fined.
I know. I'm catching myself. Okay. You know how I feel about that. I already said that to you before we got on.
Okay, a couple things here.
Why don't you give everybody what the email address is?
Well, I will, but first, we do not have a guest this week because it's the bye week.
Sure.
And there's nobody around.
Mm-hmm.
But we do kind of have a guest. Our guest this week is the listeners, because we have a whole lot of questions in the inbox.
Nice.
So you listeners out there, you're our guest this week. We'll get to that at the end, and now and moving forward, anytime you want to send us a question, which increasingly more people are doing, or sometimes they're not questions. Sometimes, like in this case, several of them just want to say how great it was watching the Bucs beat the Saints.
Oh, yeah.
And why.
Well, I can't read enough of those.
Yeah. Well, that part will be fun. So send us questions at saltydogs@buccaneers.nfl.com.
It's pretty amazing, though. What is it now? 4 games in a row, or 3 games in a row, Todd Bowles has beat the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's the longest streak we've had against them in the regular season.
And we broke their 11-game streak of over 20 points,
allowing 20 or fewer points.
Yeah, that's so nice.
It was fun.
It was great.
So I like to start out by asking you what's your favorite thing, but I think you already told me.
Well, I didn't. I will tell you my favorite thing was the post-game meal and the grilled oysters.
I never grab them. I just don't feel like eating oysters on a bus.
They're so good.
I had oysters on Saturday night.
Well, see, that's the difference. You go out Saturday night and get it, and I know they're going to be there, so I wait.
I had oysters and some really good shrimp and grits type dish.
Oh.
With what's all this all of a sudden beef debris? Have you ever heard of beef debris before?
No.
Okay, so this dish had some like shredded beef in the middle of it, but they call it beef debris. And then at the stadium, the halftime meal.
Yeah.
They also had beef debris.
Well, I just thought it was shredded beef.
It is. Why is it suddenly called beef debris? Did somebody blow up a bomb in the middle of the
Oh, don't say that.
beef? And then they just picked up the debris?
I blew up my beef. No, I think if you call it beef debris, is that what it's called?
Yeah, DEBRIS.
I think you can raise the prices on a fancy name like that.
Well, they did it. They were giving away the food in the press box.
Yeah.
I didn't have any.
Nice.
But I did have the shrimp and grits, and it had some beef debris and a really good butter sauce. It was fantastic.
I had a nice shrimp po' boy also.
Oh, that's a good call.
And some gumbo.
All right.
So
you did some. You hit some of the hits.
Yeah, you gotta
played the classics.
Yeah, you gotta go in and get that a little bit.
I have on multiple occasions done Mexican when we've gone to New Orleans.
You know what? Dave Moore and I found a Mexican restaurant off of Bourbon Street, and I don't think it held 18 people. It was that small,
Yeah.
But it was really, really good. But I can't remember where it is. When you walk up Bourbon Street, there's so many side
looking
streets.
for the right hole in the wall.
Yeah,
you don't want to get the wrong one.
But see, that's the beauty of it. You just go off the beaten path, and you'll find something.
All right. So, did you tell me then what your favorite thing was?
Yeah, no, post-game meal is my favorite
Post-game
thing.
meal.
Yeah.
So it's from where? Drago's?
Yes.
I don't think I've had, because I never grab it, because I'm usually running at the very last minute to get on the bus.
Have you gone to Drago's restaurant? Very good.
But they're char grilled oysters.
Yes. Now
I like my oysters raw.
Yeah, so do I. These are charred, boiled,
Charbroiled.
but they put it's kind of cheesy. It's more cheesy,
like a Rockefeller type of thing.
Yeah,
except no spinach.
Right.
Well, that sounds good. I just don't know if the texture. How would I feel about the texture?
Yeah.
Because I like the oysters when they're raw.
You got to take the bread, which kind of look like Cuban bread to me. But, you take that bread and you put it on there, and then you dip this, and then it's like, whoa.
That sounds like it's difficult to eat on a bus.
It's not easy, but it was well worth my efforts. Yes.
All right, so I got a couple things here for that.
All right.
I think maybe my favorite thing was watching the Superdome fading into the distance as we left with our victory, and knowing I don't have to be back there
for a year.
I mean, unless it's weeks 1, 2, or 3, we've got at least a year before I have to go back to the hellhole.
That's true. That's true.
They changed their elevators, and somehow it's no better than it was before.
No. Time out. The elevator is better. There's 2 of them now, and they're larger.
They weren't much larger.
They were large enough for us to put 2 cases in at the same time.
Right?
Correct. Which we had to wait and wait and wait. Now, it is kind of funky how you got to whip around it. But no, they did a nice improvement on the elevator.
I don't know. I still felt like I had to wait forever, and then it was jam packed. So the experience.
That's because you're going to the 7th floor, and there's a lot of people getting on that elevator from the ground floor, stopping at the lower floors.
I was talking mostly about coming down.
Oh, yeah. Well, that always takes forever.
And because I know there's no way. And also the visitors' locker room, which used to be in the end zone, they made a club out of it. Mm-hmm. Now the visitors' locker room is approximately 1,000 miles away from that elevator. And you really can't. And you can only go one direction. It's the longer direction. They won't let you go the other way.
No, if you go right, that's because that's where the Saints' locker room is, and they don't want you near there.
I'm like, you can't walk past their locker room.
And then they have
you can walk past the visitors' locker room in our stadium.
Yeah, they have some kind of lounge there, too. But no, you can't walk past our locker rooms unless you have a restricted
well, the media gets off the elevator and walks past the visitors' locker room to get to ours. Anyway. I said, other than that bit of complaining, I think maybe, and we're going to talk about Antoine Winfield a little bit more here in a bit, but he had an incredible game, obviously.
Oh.
He had there was a series of 3 plays, I believe it was early in the third quarter, where on the first play, he makes a tackle of Alvin Kamara 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of gets overlooked.
And then,
not by you, though.
Well, that helped us get to third and whatever. Mm-hmm. And on third down, they're throwing the Carr uncorks, I guess, probably his longest throw of the game.
It was.
And it was the line of scrimmage was a 50, so he was probably throwing from about the 45, and the ball came down 3 or 4 yards deep in the end zone, and Antoine Winfield got there in time to knock it away.
Yep.
And I don't think necessarily that Antoine, for all that he's known for, I don't think he's known for being like one of the fastest guys. I mean, he's fast, but you think of like Zion McCollum's really fast,
right.
Jamel Dean's really fast. You just think of Antoine as a great player. But I was doing some stuff with Next Gen today, and he got up to 20.5 miles per hour on that play. which was the third fastest that any guy on our team ran, and the fastest by any defender in that game.
He's sneaky fast.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
And so,
but he also understands the game and watches tape, and he seems to always have the angle.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is they obviously had to be playing him somewhere near the line of scrimmage on first down because he couldn't get all the way from free safety up there to make a tackle 6 yards deep.
Right.
But then on the third down, he's playing middle of the field free safety, and you can trust him to make plays back there too. Those plays on the field were about 57 yards away from each other in the span of 3 plays, and he made them both.
Yeah. He had a.
It was incredible.
Well, it's kind of like when you talk about a running back, Kamara, I believe that's who had the ball, and on the 1 yard line, and comes out, and Winfield makes a basic,
No, it was their fullback, Adam Press.
Adam Press, okay, holding, your job is to hold the ball, and he basically did, except Winfield, punched it out, that's a big play. From
Huge.
The 1 yard, well, even before that, instead of being on the 20-yard line, it was on the 1 yard line. That was a big play.
The fans in the stands really did not like that.
No,
call.
they didn't like that at all.
In case you didn't watch or don't remember, the only real negative play that Baker made was that one interception when it looked like we were going in to score right before halftime. And I think he described it. It's exactly what I saw. That play would have had a shot. He tried to get the touch on it, and he needed to throw it about 4 or 5 yards further.
Yeah.
It just came in too short. But Godwin was behind the defender, not by much, but he might have had a shot at an over shoulder to catch. So, one bad throw. And you're like, we lost this scoring opportunity. It's only going to be 7-3 going into halftime. And then they try to run it out from the 1, and Winfield gets us the ball back, and then the great Trey Palmer catch.
Yeah.
Huge part of the game.
How does he make those catches?
Trey Palmer?
Yes.
I'm not going to be throwing stats at you the whole time, especially not next-gen stats.
You love to throw stats out there.
Baker completed 25 passes in that game, and according to next-gen stats, that one was the least likely one to be caught. It only had a 22.8% chance. Like, you put every player in that situation, exact situation, it's caught 22.8% of the time.
What would that be, 1 out of every 4 times?
A little less than 1 out of 4.
Okay. See how I did the math
But he seems to be making those plays on the regular.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a ton of volume, but if you take it back to the preseason, he tends to make one big, really impressive catch in almost every game.
Yeah. There are impressive catches throughout that game. Chris Godwin going across the middle was a nice catch, a nice run.
It was more of an impressive play overall.
Yeah.
You're trying to run through all my topics all at once, man.
I'm just kind of, I'll just follow your lead.
You're taking me away from Winfield.
Okay.
And I don't want you to do that.
All right.
Because he's rapidly – as long as he's playing, Levante David is probably going to be our favorite player.
Sure.
But Winfield is rapidly gaining on him for me.
And he's in his last year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken.
You are not mistaken. We need to get that one done.
Yeah.
But I was saying to somebody during the game, or maybe it was a tweet, that he's everywhere. And that it's talking about Levante. Every now and then you have a game where you're like, are there 254s in this game? Because he is everywhere. I can remember a game like that in Atlanta a few years ago. And that's what Antoine was like with his 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery, 2 passes defensed. I think just 1 pass defense. 2 tackles for loss, I already said that. But just, he's all over the field.
Right.
And that's the kind of defender that team architects are really looking for these days. When they draft guys like it hasn't really worked out, but like Isaiah Simmons or something like that. When they draft a guy like that, they think they can use all over the place, like Jalen Ramsey or something like that.
Right.
It's a special kind of weapon to have on defense, and it's not easy to do. And it's just nice that Antoine is developing into that, and I like it. I like seeing him do so well because for 2 years in a row now, when we've made we'll do articles in the summer about bold predictions for the upcoming season.
And you predicted he was going to have a breakout year?
First team AP All-Pro.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I do remember that.
He's gotten a couple votes the last couple years, but probably those were from Tampa sports writers. But if he continues on the pace he's going on now, how many safeties in this league are playing better than he is right now?
I don't think there are.
I don't know. I'm trying to rack my brain from what I've seen. I don't get to see all the games, obviously.
Well, let's put it this way. He's made a couple of great plays in all the wins that we've had.
So he's a big key to victory for us.
That's what I'm going to say. Is that pretty close?
I mean,
would you concur?
It's fine. It's a good statement. If you're trying to stump for him to get votes for All-Pro, it doesn't really help a whole lot.
Okay.
You're just basically saying he's done good.
He has. What do you got?
I don't know, man. I was just seeing if there's anything connected with that before I move on. I really thought we'd be a little bit more upbeat here. I mean, come on. We're coming off a win over in New Orleans.
Scott, don't get too high. Don't get too low. We got to stay,
Yeah, well, you can get too
almost,
high. It's the bye week.
Almost. I will say this.
Can't we extend the 24-hour rule to
no, you can't
72 hours?
3-1 is so much better going into the bye than 2-2. And it's only a game, but that is a huge swing because it was an NFC Division South game. And now we are 1-0, and they, being the Saints, are 1-1 in the South.
They beat who, Atlanta?
I think they beat Carolina. Carolina's 0-4.
Carolina.
So I think they beat Carolina. So, and everybody else faltered during Sunday, so it certainly helped out for the Buccaneers to win the game.
Yeah, so the Bucs win over New Orleans is the only win by an NFC South team in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
How about that?
That's a great stat, right?
Because last week everybody lost.
And considering that the way everyone projected the way the Bucs would start the first quarter of the season, so far they have not been accurate.
New Orleans beat Carolina 20-17 in week 2.
Right. And you only have like 3 more wins to go to beat the odds of how many wins the team was going to have this year.
Would they have it as 5.5?
I think it was 6.5 wins.
Well, then we need 4 more.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Or 3 wins and a tie.
To match it, though. That's just a push, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, here's a big. Well, first of all, before we get specifically into Baker Mayfield, this came up a little bit on Monday, but it was already, I think, a topic. I know I tweeted about it at one point during the game. That was some interesting play calling.
It was great play calling
by Dave Canales.
I loved it.
I mean, there was a lot of different stuff going on.
There was a lot of surprises.
Chris Godwin threw a pass.
That's what I'm saying. That was
shovel. We had a shovel pass. When's the last time we had a shovel pass? I like shovel passes around the goal line.
Yeah. When they work, they're great.
It didn't work for us, but the Godwin one play didn't work either, but it was close. What else? There was some other really interesting stuff.
Well, I think Todd said it best. He kind of loves how it was being mixed up, and everyone's has been saying since, well, not everyone, but people have been saying, well, the offense is a little bland. It's really vanilla. You're only in the first few weeks. And what I keep finding interesting with Dave Canales is that he keeps saying, we have to learn the core pieces of our offense, and then we can start adding the wrinkles.
It makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's kind of the same situation as 2020 is, but there's no with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady was great, but you rolled into that season not knowing what's going to work best.
Right.
And it honestly did take several months. We won plenty of time.
Sure.
But until the offense really started clicking was what, late November?
Yeah, because I think you were 7-5 and everybody was getting nervous.
Yeah. So, and then after that, it was just great. So that makes total sense that would happen.
Yeah.
That you'd take some time to have to figure out what you do best and then what can you do off of that.
And I get the feeling, and just because of the different interviews I've been around with players, there's a connection there with the new coaches, the new offensive guys. I mean, there's a lot of new offensive players too, but there's just this connection of, and I don't like the term buy-in, but it's more like, hey, this is kind of fun, and they also have a little bit of a voice because as a player they get to say, oh, we see this, we see that, and so I think the inclusiveness is starting to show.
Okay. That's a new one on me. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. How I know this is because, talking with, we had Devin Tompkins on yesterday. It's on Buccaneers.com, Bucs Total Access.
Okay, cool.
With Casey and Ellie Marpet.
Oh, nice.
As the hosts. And he was talking about that. He was also talking about Brad Isaac, how great he is with the guys. And how he can relate to him.
That's good.
Because he's closer to age.
Well, good. I also liked what Dave Canales said in his press conference on Monday, that the ball finds energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear a coach say a line, you're like, that's a good line.
Yeah.
You need to explain to us what the heck that means, though. It was kind of like, I'm paraphrasing, when you run good routes, when you run your routes hard, when you're explosive in and out of your breaks, the quarterback takes notice. You jump out to the quarterback, and you're going to get the ball more often. So the ball finds energy. That was pretty cool, huh?
Absolutely. And I don't know. It's a nice build up. It's a nice start. You know, the thing about the Saints, and everyone kind of, you know, it was kind of a lopsided score, but the Saints have a pretty good defense.
They have a great defense.
Yeah. So I take this as a really strong win.
I'm glad you take it as a
well,
really strong
because, you know, if you look at the Bears, is everybody going, oh, wow, you beat the Bears? Everybody's not clamoring for that. I think they're up to 15 straight losses right now.
Yeah, but you got to take care of business in those games.
Yeah.
You can't feel bad because they're maybe not in their best spot. Dallas did not take care of business in Arizona.
Correct. And that's the thing is you play who's on your schedule. Quit worrying about it.
And you don't mess around and drop the ones you need to get. I mean, we had to play Philadelphia, who's, you know, the defending NFC champions, and on that night they were clearly the better team.
Yeah, I was disappointed because I didn't think the team that the Bucs played their game.
It was clearly our least competent game.
Yeah.
But
what a great rebound, though.
Yeah, and so you take that loss, but then you got to win the games you should win, like Chicago, or it's going to snowball.
Yeah, and everybody kind of the fact that you played Monday night, you didn't play it the way you wanted to, so you lost, and then you traveled and you won. That's pretty strong. I want to know the stat. You're Mr. Stat Guy. What is the stat?
Lose on a Monday?
Lose on a Monday, and then if you win the next day.
You can't ask me in the middle of the thing.
I understand that.
Unless you want some 15 minutes of silence while I look it up.
This is called. We're going to talk about that.
Well, write it
week.
on the board so I'll remember.
Write it. He's got a big board in here too.
I don't think people are taking notice of how unbelievably good Baker Mayfield has been on third downs so far.
Yeah.
He came into the game, leading the NFL in passer rating and completion percentage on third down plays.
Okay.
That's awesome. It was already like 119 pass rating, something like that. Then he was the best he's ever been in this one. 6 of 7 for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a pass rating like 153.8. No, that's 150. It's around 153 point something because it's close to the maximum, which is 158.3, which is weird that that's the maximum. But he's just making so many plays on third downs, and they're not always just simple.
Right.
I mean, you brought it up, the Chris Godwin play that in some ways kind of put the game away.
Right.
Because the Buccaneers were up only 1 touchdown and facing 3rd and 7 at the Saints 47. So if you don't get that, if you get some yards, maybe you can kick a field goal, but it's a little risky. You may be punting from around midfield with 4 minutes to go and only up a touchdown. Now, the way that game was going, I probably still would have felt good about our defense being able to get the stop.
Right.
But still, you want to put the game away. And on 3rd and 7, Chris Godwin runs a pivot route, which means he goes up a little bit, cuts to the left towards the sideline, and then turns his body towards the quarterback and goes back quickly across the middle of the field.
Right.
At the same time this is happening, Carl Granderson and Brian Bressie, I don't know how it's pronounced, are getting really close to taking Mayfield down. They both got a pressure on him, and he's moving around a little bit. He has to throw the ball kind of. It's almost like a little bit of a jump throw. Like he has to throw from an awkward position, and it comes out a little bit wobbly, but it's right on target. And it hit. He found Godwin. Godwin said, I asked him after the game because it looked like a pivot route to me. I'm like, but then the coach said something about how Chris had altered the route a little bit to help out to help out Mayfield because he knew he was under duress. So he changes his route a little bit and gets in position, and then Mayfield finds him, and then, of course, he runs for another 30 yards all the way down to the 5. That wasn't an easy play by any stretch.
No.
And he threw the touchdown passes to Tompkins right after that, and to Cade Otton, which is another play where he was under a lot of pressure, were both on third downs. And if you don't get either of those, you're kicking field goals. That's 8 less points, right?
Right.
Maybe. Well, we went for 2 after the Tompkins one, so it's like a touchdown less, and you're not as comfortable. You're only up 1 touchdown instead of 2.
Right.
And so they don't have to be quite so desperate. They were down 2 touchdowns and they had to be desperate, and that's how we got the next drive. 3 incompletions that weren't particularly close, and then the sack by Vita Vea on 4th down, and then they bring in Jameis, and he's picked off on his first throw.
Right.
And to build on top of that, in addition to that almost perfect passing on 3rd downs through the first month of the season, he's also frequently been running for necessary yards on 3rd downs.
Unreal.
He's converted several 3rd downs. He converted several 3rd downs in that game with scrambles. And on another occasion, he scrambled enough that it got us into field goal range for that 51-yard field goal. So his 3rd down production, both with his arm and his legs, has been amazing, and I don't feel like anybody's talking about it.
No, because they don't know about our team yet. That's basically the reason for that.
We were talking about,
he has been extending drives, and that wasn't the
on
case.
a regular basis.
Correct.
Correct. And I don't think, weren't we talking last week about sort of how the absurdity of all these power ranking stories?
Which
I agree with.
Yes,
They're
I know.
silly, but on the other hand, everybody reads them. So I don't blame writers for writing this. But somehow, I'm not going to name the site because I really, really like this site, and I don't want to sound like I'm ripping on it. But they also have a quarterback ranking.
Yeah.
Which, given how the narrative around Baker was coming into the season, you won't be surprised to know they had him ranked 29th.
Sure.
Last week, he was up to 24th with, 5 spots
Right.
after 2 really good games.
Mm-hmm.
After this last game, he dropped a spot.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Because they don't understand it, and they're begrudgingly going to say he's not going to perform. Now, if you watch...
I might be reading this wrong. That may be from week 3 to 4, so after the Philly game, he dropped a spot.
If you look at the Giants right now, and they're spending $160 million on their quarterback, and after their game last night, all of a sudden there's a question mark there. Also, if you look at our game against the New Orleans Saints and what Derek Carr is guaranteed and what Baker Mayfield is, all of a sudden you're
More
going...
bang for your buck.
Yeah, all of a sudden... Oh, I like what you did there. All of a sudden you're going, And I think that this team really fits Baker Mayfield. I think it fits his style. And that's, I know, call me crazy.
No,
but I think
that
that's
wasn't
why
by
they brought
accident.
him in.
Yes, I've said that multiple times on here.
I can tell by the look in your face.
Well, it's good. No, it's proof of concept. I like that you say that because before the season we talked about this and how we had some optimism about it, and he did well in the preseason, and also they brought him in because they thought his skill set was a good fit for this, and his approach to the game, his grittiness, the way he really kind of gets guys to follow him, which I think you're seeing already.
Yep.
These guys want to play for him. And
he wants to play for them, too.
True. But your quarterback is always kind of your leader.
Yeah, but he's not a prima donna as a leader.
No, he's just kind of
He's a leader.
Let's get this
done. And I think, I don't know, maybe all of this is coming together for Baker Mayfield is he's having fun again playing football.
Yeah.
And, that's a big burden when you're the number 1 pick and you're going to a franchise that isn't doing very well and you're supposed to save it.
Well, it's not that we weren't doing very well.
No. I'm talking about when he went to Cleveland and he was supposed to save it, which you put the pressure on, you're 22 and all of a sudden, hey, you got to make this work. And I get it. That's the business. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you're the only reason why it didn't work out.
Well, and you know how that went down, man. He had a great 2020 season. It's the season I point to when I say, hey, there's at least reason to have some hope that Baker can put together a really nice season because we've actually seen him do it on the NFL level.
Right.
And perhaps with a somewhat lesser cast around him.
Sure.
And then 2021, to what extent is he injured? To what extent does that affect his play?
Mm-hmm.
And then
last year was...
And then the Browns see this opportunity to what they believe huge upgrade in trading for Deshaun Watson. We'll see if that ends up being true or not. And so that's it. In another world where they don't trade for Baker Mayfield, perhaps his rebound is with them. And you go, okay, yeah, he started out good, had to dip, and now he's kind of on an upward trajectory again. Instead, it's with us. I know last year didn't go well, but come on. He went to the Panthers. That was a disaster there.
Right.
Head coach fired after, 5 games. And then he was thrown into the fire with the Rams with virtually no preparation. So what do you expect, really, right?
Yeah. And so The thing is you just don't know. But when he went to Carolina, there were struggles there all the way across the board.
Saying.
Yeah. And then, but I don't know. Sometimes you just need a fresh start. How many times have you seen that with a player where just needed a change
Geno
of scene?
Smith.
Right.
He just needed the right situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too reductive, too easy before the season to go, hey, look, Dave Canales was there. They turned Geno Smith around. So the exact same thing's going to happen with Baker. But so far, kind of is.
Yeah.
There's a long way to go. We have to preface that. There's a long way to go.
But we do in quarters, and I realize there's 17 games now, so it's not. But if you go on the standard of after 4 games, the arrow certainly is pointing up. So.
And he's run for, how many yards he's run for so far this year? Baker Mayfield? 61.
Really?
Which is a nice little thing. If you were comparing him to Derek Carr,
sure.
Derek Carr has 1 rushing yard so far.
Right.
So in today's NFL, what you want is a quarter. You don't necessarily have to get Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson, but your quarterback, if he offers you some positive value with his legs, some scrambles at certain times, and being able to move around and escape pressure, it's hard to be Dan Marino. I just be the guy that just stands in the pocket, gets rid of the ball with an amazing quick release. It's so much better chance of success if that guy can move around a little bit. Like Trevor Lawrence. He runs around pretty well. Guys like that. They're not known as rushing quarterbacks necessarily, but if they give you that. So you were saying this is exciting and fun for the players. It's fun for us too.
Yes.
And I'm trying to be inclusive here with Buccaneer fans.
It is.
I hope that a lot of them are starting to feel that way.
It's a fun team to watch.
Well, it's fun to be discovering a new offense. And so when I say this now, it should never, ever, ever be interpreted as any kind of criticism about Tom Brady. But in his 3 seasons, he had 86 rushing yards in 3 seasons for us. Baker Mayfield has 61 through his first 4 games. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is the greatest to ever do it. And especially in 2020 and 2021, it didn't matter if he ran a lot because he's just so freaking good throwing the ball.
Sure.
And he's just, he has that unparalleled field vision, and he makes every play. We could say everything there is to say about Tom Brady. But now we're seeing something that's built different.
Yeah.
And obviously it's under a new offensive coordinator. When we talked about all the kind of interesting play calling, which included like a Devin Tompkins in around and stuff like that, which worked. That one worked well. At the end of the day, though, you end up with 34 dropbacks and 33 carries.
Nice.
So you're doing creative stuff, but you're still doing it in service of this desire to be balanced on offense.
And how many yards did they have? Bucs had 140 yards rushing?
114.
14?
It's still only 3.5 per carry, although you have to understand the last 3 carries were kneel downs.
Yeah.
So it really it should read 117 yards on 30 carries, which looks a little bit. That's close to 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
But I'll let you talk a little bit because I've been dominating this.
No. It's interesting because you're into this, and people like these little tidbit facts of, you're Mr. Stat guy. That's fine.
Well, I want to make the stats.
And you're
paint a picture.
You're very, very excited today. I like it.
Well, again, I'm on the 72-hour rule, man.
Yeah.
I'm celebrating the Saints game more than one day.
You're riding high. No
it's because it's
question.
the bye week. We should allow this. I think in the bye week you get a 72-hour rule.
Yeah. Well,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, in this particular game, there's just stuff to really feel good about, and it's a division. You needed it. It's the Saints. Need you say more? It's just the Saints.
Well,
and there's that great rivalry now between the two teams. They just don't like each other. Period. And you have to tip a hat. Unfortunately, Mike Evans pulled his hammy a little bit. However, he also didn't lose his cool at all. So, yay, there's that, because everybody was on Mike watch when that starts.
And it's funny because the obviously worst possible outcome of that is if it's an injury that keeps him out for some time.
Yeah, right.
I'm hopeful that it was not a severe tweak, and that with the bye week he'll be back.
I kind of got the feeling it really wasn't, because he got on the bike and he was, during the game. They didn't bring him back in, but because
he tested it after halftime, right?
Yeah.
So that's our hope. Another thing that I didn't like about it happening, though, is, okay, so you look at the box score after the game, you go, 3 catches for 4 yards.
Yeah.
Okay, Marshawn Lattimore won again.
No.
That was definitely not the case.
No.
Because Mike got those, yards quickly, and also, lest we forget, because it doesn't show up in his yardage, he got him on that double move that drew a pretty significant pass interference penalty. Remember that?
Right.
So that doesn't count on his yardage, but he beat Lattimore on that one. Lattimore had to grab him by the foot, or Mike's probably catching a touchdown pass.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mike was
But you got the flag, so that was
Mike was winning the battle between Lattimore early on. But since he left the game early, when you talk about it late, every year they analyze it and go, in this many games, he's averaged this many catches for this many yards against Marshawn Lattimore.
Right.
He's had a couple big games in the Saints series, but he's had a lot more that were smaller yardage. This one would have probably fit into the better category had he been able to play a full 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think it would have been a touchdown if he didn't get tackled.
Yeah, in which case, Lattimore did the right thing. I don't know about getting up and acting like, well, what are you calling that flag?
Well,
it was about as blatant as a pass
He always
interference
does
can
it.
be.
What? I didn't.
Most
do anything.
DBs do.
Yeah.
Well, what? That's a penalty?
Yeah.
I did feel like the Jets got screwed on one of those plays.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a penalty.
It didn't look like a penalty.
And it was
Game changer.
It
was.
It probably was the play
That particular one was definitely a game changer.
It would have been a lot, as a fan, it would have been a lot more fun to see if Zach Wilson, who was having the game of his life,
right,
could have erased that deficit 23-20 and actually beaten Patrick Mahomes. Now, I love Patrick Mahomes, so I'm not looking for ways to say, let's get Patrick Mahomes. And I like the Chiefs, and we have some friends there, but I don't.
Well, I think
it would have been more interesting.
Yeah, I think also you have to ask yourself, where Kansas City's at, because they're winning, but it doesn't seem like they're just dominating teams
Eagles are the
anymore.
same way. Eagles are the same way.
Right.
I mean, they did kind of dominate us.
But good teams figure out a way to win.
Well, that's fair.
You have to give them that. I mean, there's no style points in football.
I think the Chiefs, they figure out a way to win, and it's like, we have Patrick Mahomes. I think that's how they figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
Although he didn't have by his standards, a
I think
great
he
game.
had 3 picks.
3?
I think he did, didn't he?
I don't know.
Anyways,
there's at least 2.
Yeah, I mean, and you figure you get a couple picks, you got a good shot of winning that game, and they did. However,
they had a shot at it.
They had a shot
because the Jets have a good defense.
Yeah, but that's what I think is so amazing about the NFL is last week Miami Dolphins put 70 points on the board, and then they lose 48-20 against Buffalo.
Buffalo was favored.
Yeah, and then Denver getting 70 points scored on them. They're behind. They come back and beat the Bears. So, I mean, each day is one of those you just don't know. I really believe that. I think it's like you said earlier. If you don't prepare for a team, you're gonna get smoked. So
yeah, or just the ball can bounce the wrong way.
Well, there's that, right?
But to kind of put a bow on the Mayfield discussion, the Baker Mayfield discussion, it's not the end of our season-long discussion, obviously, but where we stand right now, I'm sure you recall that when we've discussed this thing, we talked about how there weren't high expectations for the Buccaneers coming into the season because Tom Brady retired, and he's being replaced by Baker Mayfield. And so much of the analysis by analysts that I am fond of, that I think do a great job, but a lot of times it was just, hey, they still have a lot of good players.
Right.
They have some good pass catchers. Their defense still has a lot of the same players that were in the Super Bowl. They could have a really good defense, but they don't have a quarterback, so let's rank them 29th. And so our argument was, take all of that, and if you're wrong about the quarterback,
right?
If you're wrong about the quarterback, that's the only part of the equation we have to flip.
Sure.
To say now the Bucs are contenders.
Right.
You said it yourself. They have a good supporting cast. They have a good defense. Probably they have the makings of that, but they can't win because they don't have a quarterback.
Correct.
Okay. Now we're not going to tell you how. We're not going to say who it is. We're just going to tell you, hey, by the way, the Buccaneers, as it turned out, they did have a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. Oh, how do you feel about us now?
Right. But
okay. And they'd be like, oh, okay, so you're telling me they have a good quarterback, potentially pretty good? I don't want to say great yet. Potentially pretty good, potentially above average, right? Right now he's well above average.
Right.
But I'm not telling you the name, but all you need to know.
A serviceable quarterback right now.
Well, sir, he's well more than that at the moment. But all you need to know, Mr. Analyst or Mrs. Analyst, is that everything you said about everything else about the team is true, and they have a good quarterback. What do you say now? Oh, okay, well, then they probably have a shot, especially in a division that a lot of people think is weak. And then I say to you, well, that good quarterback is Baker Mayfield. They would all go, yeah, well, whatever. That's not going to happen.
Right. And a lot of right now, and it's still early. You have to. But if you're going to take a measurement, and we are taking a measurement right now, I've been reading a lot of national stuff, and begrudgingly, it is. Well, the Bucs, might get hot in the NFC South. Might get hot. Come on, come on. I realize it's 3-1, but at the end of the day, you got to tip your hat. There aren't very many 3-1 teams right now in the NFL.
You know what I like about all that, Jeff?
What?
You said tip your hat, which is the way you're supposed to say it. But
thank you.
Young players nowadays, they all say, I have to tip my hat off.
Oh, no.
You either say you tip your hat, or you say you got to take your hat off. You don't tip your hat off.
But
everybody says tip your hat off.
Oh, okay. Well, I got it right.
You got it right because you're old school and you've been around.
That's right. That's it. Yes.
How long have we been going, Jeff? Because I want to know how many of these topics I should hit.
You're only at 40 minutes, buddy boy. Just keep on coming.
I got a lot to go, man.
You are. Did you have a Red Bull or something?
No, I don't. Okay. I never drink those.
All right, go ahead.
So, like I said, I think I was putting the bow on that. The Vita Vea, 2 sacks.
Right.
He's got 3.5 already. He had a season high 6.5 last year. We're only 4 games in. Todd kind of chuckled a little bit when one of the reporters was saying a good thing about Vita and saying, hey, 3.5 sacks, he's on pace for like 14, 15. And Todd kind of chuckled a little bit because nobody thinks that Vita Vea is going to get 15 sacks.
No.
I mean, it would be fantastic if he did because he'd be like Warren Sapp all of a sudden. But he's getting pressure. And obviously we already know, and it continues to be true, that he makes a difference in everything else that happens just by being on the field, especially in the run game. I'm going to the next-gen stats too often, I guess, but in this past game, when he was on the field, they averaged 2.6 yards per run, and when he was off the field, they averaged 5.8.
Right.
And that kind of stat is constantly coming out about Vita, that the Bucs defense is a lot better when he's on the field, even if he's not racking up stats. But if you take that, and then you add, hey, this guy does occasionally give you a 2-sack game. That's awfully valuable.
Yeah, and just think if we get our first-round draft pick in with
then we might get to see what everybody's talking about.
Gosh, I mean, hopefully we will because we're in the bye week, as you say.
He was not put on injured reserve.
No.
And nowadays you can bring a guy back after a minimum of 4 games. Mm-hmm. So if you think he's going to be out for 4 games, then you probably just go ahead and put him on IR so you got some flexibility on your roster.
Right.
Well, he's missed 3 now. So, and there's a bye week also in there. So it seems like they definitely planned for him to be back at the latest for this next coming game, which will be great.
Right.
Maybe Jamel will be back.
As early as this bye is, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
For this team right now.
It worked out that way.
Yes. Now, if you can get everybody healthy, you really need to get everybody healthy. And then the other side of that is if someone's kind of iffy, you may not want to put them in because you got such a long stretch after this bye.
Okay.
Without a break. I mean, you get a little mini break with Buffalo because you're playing on Thursday. But honestly, it would have been better if you had the Thursday game somewhere in November rather than in October, so soon after your bye. So I think health is going to be a big deal for most teams.
Case, yeah.
But, right now we're kind of getting these nagging
Well, you could get
injuries.
Jamel back. You could get Kalijah back.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much of a difference it makes on defense, but Servase Dennis hasn't played since week 1.
No.
He could be back. You hope that Mike's injury wasn't too big of a deal. Carlton Davis came back, but now he'll have another week to get even better.
Yeah.
So any little things that you got going on. Oh, Ryan Neal got a concussion.
Yes.
You would think he'll
away,
probably be back.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think.
He played one. Yeah. He played one special team snap, kickoff coverage, and 2 defensive snaps, and had 2 tackles.
Yeah. And
that's pretty
impressive. I think he got hit in the head.
Yeah.
He's got a concussion.
Foot hit his head or something?
Yes, I was just going to say it was kind of a freak hit. Yes.
Jeff here with the doctor bit. He's got a concussion. Oh, I think he got hit in the head. Good call.
What I was trying to say was it wasn't like his head hit the turf. A knee, a foot, another body part hit him. So it just goes to show you how hard the hits are.
Speaking of hard hits, did you see this catcher just hit by the backswing?
Yeah.
God, I hate that.
Well, you can say you're watching the Tampa Bay Rays and Texas Rangers first wild card playoff game. It's on.
It's on the TV. We're not paying much attention to it because we are in service of the listeners here, trying to give an entertaining show. But,
sure.
They are losing 1-0 in the bottom of the fourth.
Yeah, by the time you hear this, the game will be way, way over. But that's just another thing.
Hey, a lot of this.
But hey,
a lot of when we get to all the fans' questions here, you're going to get some international flavor. So it's a possibility that they don't really know what's going on in this baseball playoffs.
Well, that's true. That's true.
D. Delaney. So Ryan Neal goes out. Nice segue here. Ryan Neal goes out on the second play. D plays the entire rest of the game at the other safety spot a week. And basically he spent, to me, from my naked eye, it looked like he spent a lot of the time playing single high free safety so that Antoine could be moved all over the field. And coming into that game, I'm just going to talk to you, the listeners, here for a while, because Jeff once again is ignoring me while I'm texting on his phone.
I am not. I have to answer a very important question from the IT department.
You wouldn't have to if you left your phone in your office.
And if I didn't, we could have issues. So I have
I'm
to
sure
do
they
this.
could wait another half an hour.
No one can wait for me, Scott. You know that.
D. Delaney played the rest of, like I said, the Buccaneers came into the game, according to the stats the NFL sent out before last game, as using the third highest percentage of single high safety packages in the NFL. Uh-huh. So we've been playing a lot of single high, which I believe is probably so that Antoine can be moved all over the place.
Sure.
Sometimes Antoine is the single high safety, but I think he gets moved around a lot more. So D. Delaney, who last week came in to play outside corner when Jamel got hurt and got an interception, comes in here to play safety, plays almost the entire game. Obviously was part of a very good defensive effort. And he gets another interception.
Right.
So if you took every single player on the 53-man roster and ranked how important they were to our success, I don't know where you'd put Delaney. But
you got to have him.
It's awfully valuable to have a guy that could do that one week and then the next week, different jobs.
Well, when we had him on, we talked about his versatility. And, so I think, do you have to rank players? I mean,
no. I was trying to make a point.
No, I understand that, but it just brought me everything's a ranking anymore. It's always, you just can't say, hey, we're good, and leave it at that.
Okay, if I were to ask a Buck fan, who's our most important player? Nobody would say D. Delaney as their number one.
Well,
answer.
That's true.
They'd probably say Baker or Mike.
Vita I'd say Mike
or Levante.
Yeah,
Antoine.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a while probably till somebody says D. Delaney because he's not a starter technically.
No,
but we're just talking about.
But when he's in, he makes a difference.
Yeah, and it's another indication of how this roster is even maybe just a bit deeper than some of these analysts who gave it some credit thought. Because you got a guy like D. Delaney. I'm sure nobody was looking at D. Delaney and going, "Well, that makes him better or worse." Christian Izien.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about Christian Izien.
No.
I mean, Todd Bowles knew.
Yeah.
And he's one of the main guys that he's talking about when he said that line several times. He's like, there's a lot of good players on this team. You just don't know who they are yet.
Well, and that conversation was just it's just stayed with me since training camp. And now you're starting to see that. And he was very excited about all these young guys.
Yeah.
And they have been proving that. But I also take that as a credit to the coaching staff to getting these guys up. Coaching them up, so to speak. I mean, you have your natural talents. You have your God-given gifts. So there's that.
I know I do.
But, and then someone's got to coach you up or help you improve. And that's what's happening. And it's just fun. You made a comment about watching the game and it's fun. And it was. There really hasn't been a game where it wasn't somewhat fun. I mean, the Eagles game was a little, but you were still in it. You still had a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's a plus.
So Mike Evans goes out before halftime with the hamstring. A lot of guys step up. Devin Tompkins gets his first touchdown. Trey Palmer gets another one. Cade Otton. But it's Chris Godwin who kept that passing game going.
Yeah.
With 8 catches for 114 yards. Yeah. And it's just kind of funny because it comes after a week in which, for some reason that you and I and a lot of us can't understand, in the press conferences, there was this narrative that Chris Godwin isn't being used. What's the usage problem with Chris Godwin?
Someone had I need to write about something, so I'm going to say, and that's that always happens when you have a variety of weapons on your offense. Someone always wants to key in on, well, you're not using this guy. Why is that? Well, because you got to spread the ball around, and also what they were trying to accomplish. When Mike did go down, you kind of thought Chris was really going to be like a key, and I think
I wasn't sure. Let me stop for just a second, because they were shadowing Mike with Marshall and Lattimore. They were doing that. He was shadowing him. When Mike goes out, I was like, well, they'll probably shadow Chris with Marshall and Lattimore now. And I don't know if they did or not. If they did, that's even better for Chris.
Right.
But I didn't necessarily think that Mike's inavailability was going to be a good thing for Chris. Mm-hmm. I thought they might now key on Chris and make us beat them with Devin Tompkins and Trey Palmer. And
both got touchdowns, so that worked out well.
But it's just funny. I don't have a problem with the question at the beginning of the week or Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, his stats were a lot lower than Mike's. So you ask the question and they explain, what's happened so far. Mm-hmm. But it was just weird to me the way the narrative kind of just seemed to keep going through the week. And I'm like, dude or whoever.
Dudettes.
We're 3 weeks into the season.
Folks.
If it's
if you're like week 8 and you're going, wow, why do you have Chris Godwin on your team? You're paying him all this money. Why is this happening? But it was, you're in your 4th game.
We weren't even in our 4th game yet. It was 3 weeks in the season. Well, do you know who our leading pass catcher is right now?
Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin.
Well, that's because I brought it to everyone's attention.
Did you go back and tell the coaches?
Yeah, I had a discussion.
You took a big picture of Chris with you. He goes, guy, you know this guy, right?
You ever see this number before? you might go out and look at it a little bit more.
You had a heart-to-heart with Baker?
Me and
Baker's like, Chris who?
Yeah. I had to let him know.
No, I mean, obviously the injury to Mike probably had something to do with the fact that Chris had his biggest game so far. But the point being, it was only the 4th game.
Yeah.
Next week, it could be Mike again. But Chris is not playing any differently than he has been before.
Yeah.
And we obviously know that he is. Here's part of it. I think somebody here on the staff said this to me when we were discussing this. It's been 3 years of us setting passing records.
Right.
And when you have the quarterback throwing the most passes ever in a season, and when you have the best passing attack or close to it for 3 straight years,
right,
and you can't run the ball at all and you're not trying to run the ball, there's going to be a lot of good numbers to go around.
Right.
So we shouldn't expect necessarily Chris and Mike and anybody else to have the same volume of numbers that they did the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be
right.
We're not trying to be the best passing attack in the league anymore.
No.
I'm sure we'd love to be the best passing attack in the league, but that's not the goal.
No, and it's different, but hey, you got to write stories to make people read.
Yep.
You got to do the what ifs.
I'm kind of jumping around here, but
sure.
That was such a good defensive performance for us. You probably heard this stat, but Alvin Kamara caught 13 passes for 33 yards.
Jeez.
It's the first time. It's the first time in history, NFL history, that a player has caught 13 passes in a game and finished with fewer than 70 yards.
Wow.
Not 50, 70.
Wow.
He didn't even have half of that. He didn't just set the new standard. He blew the old one away. So that's obviously indicative of, really good underneath coverage and reacting quickly to the ball. Devin White, Levante David, Isian, just everybody really.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. What else did I have? I thought I had something along those lines, but I think I've forgotten it.
I think all in all, what I like is that the team is getting better as each week goes by. It
wasn't a perfectly linear line.
No, but I think the thing that needs to be discussed though is, geez, guys, you got to stop with the penalties.
Yeah, but we had a good game against Philly in penalties wise.
Right. Yeah, well, there was only
7 in the whole game.
Yeah.
There was 18 in this one, I think.
Crazy, isn't it?
It does make you wonder if you get different results from different crews.
Well, that would be a good analogy. That would be something.
But there were a couple false starts, which.
Well, you're in that dome.
I mean, we didn't do any in Minnesota, though.
Well, that's true.
One other thing here, the Bucs were 8 of 15 on third downs overall, but what was particularly impressive was, or good to see, was that we were 4 for 4 on third downs where you need 4 to 6 yards.
Right.
And I think we're going to need to be good in that category in most games to have success offensively, because with this attempt to get balance and with you saying, hey, a 3-yard run on first down can be an efficient play. Mm-hmm. If you run 3 yards, then run 3 yards, you're in 3rd and 4. If you can consistently convert those 3rd and 4s, it'll work.
Sure.
But in the first 3 games, we were only 4 of 12, and I think Dave Canales even made mention of it when he was talking about third downs. He's like, we've been doing pretty good here. Kind of the mid-range ones we haven't been good in, so maybe they did some self-scouting and came up with plays that are working, but we converted all 4 of them.
Right. Well, the other thing about Dave is I sure love his energy. I liked how he came in. Hey, great weekend this weekend. You have to go watch his press conference. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. Are they already rolling at that part?
Is
that part of the recording?
Yeah. I think
unless
they cut it out.
Usually has a little bit of give and take before any questions.
Yeah, usually they run that. Usually the cameras are rolling as you open the door and walk in. Now it's a question of whether they edit that out.
That's what I meant, I guess.
I'd have to look. But I liked it, though. I like that energy level. And I don't think it's fake energy. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's being backed up. Maybe that's what it is at this stage.
I also like that Todd Bowles now appears to have a signature post-game.
I love it.
Press or post-game locker room reaction after a win. Maybe only a win on the road because they've both been on the road, right?
Correct.
But the big yes.
Yeah.
It was funny because as soon as he started, I think I realized it. So I'm sure everybody in the room realized it because he started into the same line and people started smiling because the first time he did it, they didn't know what he was going to say.
Right.
So he's like, "There's one word to describe a win like this," and he went, "Yeah." This time he's like, now remember, there's only one word for, and then everybody was pretty hyped.
Yeah. Hey, you won 2 on the road, 2 in domes. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a great start.
It's an excellent
start. Did you want one more note about power polls to say how silly they can be?
Oh, yes, please.
And then we'll get to fan questions, okay? So on this site that I like, they have a power poll for the teams every week. Mm-hmm. And Houston this week won at home against a Pittsburgh team that's been struggling.
Right.
And was without their starting quarterback, at least for part of it.
Yeah. Pickett got hurt.
Houston beat Pittsburgh, beat them pretty well. They jumped 11 spots in their power poll.
Well, yeah.
And they're 2-2. Mm-hmm. The Buccaneers won on the road against an opponent that had been playing well.
Right.
And we only jumped 6 spots.
Well, that's because they were ranked 32 to begin with, so they're giving a little more hope. Because no one expected Houston to do anything.
Houston was ranked in this particular one.
Yeah.
31 to start I think Arizona was last.
Oh, okay.
31, 30, and then they stayed around 30, and then they were 27 after beating, I don't remember who they beat.
Yeah.
And now they jump from 27 to 16, which leapfrogged them over us because the Bucs go from 24 to 18. At least we are ahead of the Saints.
Yeah. But,
which we just beat, but we're behind the 1-3 Vikings who we beat.
But I think you just need to look at the standings.
Yeah, that's your real power
That's
poll,
all
right?
I care about on the PowerPoint.
I know, and I'm the one defending them most of the time.
You can sit there and pull all those numbers out of your you-know-what all you want, but standings are real. Yeah. Standings are real.
That's what matters right now, right?
All right.
Okay, you want to get to these questions?
Next thing you're going to get me into, my guy on fantasy football didn't catch the ball. So
I haven't said I have a fantasy football sob story, but I didn't bring it up.
Oh, please share. Seriously.
Did you watch the game last night?
I did.
In the fantasy league I care about the most, where I was 2-1, I came into the night up by 4 points. We each had one player left.
Okay, who did you have?
Darren Waller, the tight end for the Giants.
And who did this other person have?
The Seattle defense.
Ooh, too bad for you.
Yeah. And things were still pretty close and could have gone either way until –
Now,
you remember the pick six play?
Yeah.
Darren Waller was wide open in the end zone. If he sees Darren Waller and throws him the touchdown pass and then the pick six doesn't exist, I probably win that week.
Yeah, but if –
that one play cost me a week.
Yes. If and buts were candy and nuts, you all would be happy at Christmas time. Doesn't matter. How many sacks did Seattle have? Was there like 11?
I think it was 11.
Is that not crazy?
It is crazy.
Would you not have just lost your fantasy game just because of 11 sacks? Do you get points for sacks?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Well, he ended up scoring a ton. Did they really?
Yeah.
I turned the game off after the pick six.
Well, yes, but
so I didn't realize it.
Okay, but let's say they didn't have a pick six.
11 sacks would have been enough.
Okay, so it doesn't matter then.
But if they'd thrown it to Darren Waller, I would have got like 10 points out of that play.
Okay, but how many points you get for a sack?
In most leagues, it's either 1 or 2. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. So the most they would have got was 22 points.
Which is a lot. And Darren Waller didn't have that. So
okay.
I don't know. I don't know what would have happened.
I'm not good with numbers, but I'm just saying I don't think you're going to win.
You always say that, and then you try to say a stat.
Go ahead.
Okay. Questions? Fan questions? Let me make sure I get to the right one. Okay.
All right.
This is from Mike in Connecticut. Howdy, dogs. What a great day for football. I started off by coaching my 5-year-old's flag football game. I've done that before, by the way. It's fun. Mm-hmm. Then got to watch the Bucs take it to the Saints. The cherry on top was Jameis throwing a pick in garbage time, just like the old days. It's great to see Baker be able to scramble around, make things happen when he needs to, and then defense keep them in the games even against the speed the Saints skill players have. Yeah, by the way, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave are very fast, and they were one of only 2 teams coming into that game that had 3 receivers that were all over 150 yards already. Chris Olave ended up with 1 catch for 4 yards.
Yes. And he was averaging, I know you're going to find this shocking, but he was averaging 100.3 yards a game. And being held like he was incredible.
We pretty much held Rashid Shaheed in check. He hurt us last year, and Michael Thomas had 4 catches for 53 yards. So, okay, getting back to the question. Hopefully the bye week is actually a blessing and can get everyone back healthy. My only complaint comes on the fantasy side. Sorry, Jeff, I know you hate this. Scott, can you slip Dave Canales to 20 and ask him to get Chris Godwin or Rachaad White into the end zone? That would really help me with some points on my team. Tons of yards, but no TDs again. Anyways, hope you both had smiles on your ride down the shittiest elevator in the world today.
Wow.
This was sent on Sunday. Have a great week off. Go Bucs.
Wow.
I did have a smile on my face. Although when I went down, the game wasn't over.
Right.
We were still up by 1 touchdown, but I knew I couldn't wait because they let the coaches go down, they hold them.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure I'd be able to get down, get the quotes, get back up, and finish my story. So I just took my computer and worked in the locker room.
And there's really no way to walk down the stairs. You'd have to ramp it.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't willing to risk it, and so the game was not over when we rode down.
I will say I give props for the elevators because we were able to get all the equipment in one run.
Okay, so they used to be an F, and now they're like a C minus.
Well, they got 2 of them, so it was pretty good. But see, we're
still takes forever.
It does, but in our particular instance, we weren't going down until 35 minutes after the game.
Yeah,
so
well, that makes a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Okay, so yeah, Chris Godwin and Rashad are going to get in the end zone. I mean, there was before the Tompkins touchdown catch, the second down pass was targeting Godwin. And then didn't Rashad run the ball down to the 1 before the touchdown to Trey Palmer? Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, he got the first and goal carry at the 6 and almost got it in. That's the play that Mike got hurt on, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's an injury update, not when it happened. And so then I like throwing on 2nd and 1, but if Palmer hadn't caught that, there's a good chance we would have tried to run Rashad in after that. So the opportunities are going to come. I know this is mostly a tongue-in-cheek question, but you'll be fine. He'll get his touchdowns.
Yep.
All right, this is from Don Little in Orlando, Florida. I think he's chimed in a couple times this year. Ahoy, ye old salty dogs. Wow, what a great win for the Bucs. Words cannot describe how much I dislike the Saints. Their organization, their players' dirty style of play, okay?
Right.
Their obnoxious fans, agreed, etc. Are you convinced yet? Lol. I even dislike their stadium, the Superdome.
Yeah, no, I go with that.
I mean, have you heard our podcast and how we feel about it?
I mean, they love their Superdome, and they keep improving it. I mean, they keep making different adjustments to it, and they're adding more to it also. So you got to remember that thing was built, I think, in 1970, something like that. So
to me, it is like watching a game being played in a huge, dark mausoleum.
Well,
they have plenty of mausoleums there.
What happens is when you talk to a player after the game, they say tonight because it is dark in there. So no matter when you play it is kind of weird when you walk out. First of all, it's very, very cold in that dome.
That's the only good thing.
Yeah. But then when you walk out and it's dark, and then when you walk out to the buses, all of a sudden you feel the heat and the sun. It's like, whoa.
Oh, wow, it's only 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I have heard both of you lament on previous podcasts about that stadium. So my question for both of you is, what are the top 3 things you like least about working/watching in the Superdome?
Okay.
Don't you have a really small radio booth?
Yeah, well, it's steep and small.
And very high.
And very high, as you well know when you sit in there. And you can't really see. You have to get up on the edge of your seat and then lean down over to see. So basically, I stood the whole game just so I could see.
I can't really do that because I'm typing.
Yep.
So one on my list.
Yeah, that's one on my list. Which one on your list?
Well, it's similar to yours because of how high we are up and the angle. Mm-hmm. You have your laptop open, but you can't see the field. You can't see over your laptop to the field, so you have to be pulling your laptop down or looking around the side of it the whole game. Mm-hmm. It's very irritating and inconvenient.
My other thing is you are so high that you're level with the speakers, and they're always on full blast.
I would take that one too. But since you took it, I'll say I still hate the elevators. And now add in how far it is to the locker room.
Okay.
That would be my two. Mm-hmm. Those are combined as a second one. You got one more?
One more. Let's see. I will say the people are very nice. The people that work there are very nice.
These are supposed to be complaints.
Okay. Let's see. How high we are, the loud noise. And, you said the long walk, which is true. It's almost 3/4 around the stadium.
How about the song? I think that's my number 3. I hate that thing. I hate that song. I don't even know what it is.
I don't particularly care for when the Saints are marching in band.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that. But I would say that would be pretty much it. And honestly, 2 of those make up 3 bads at other stadiums.
What?
2 bad things at the Superdome are like 3 bad things at another stadium.
Just because of how we feel about it?
Correct.
All right, on to the next. Michael Gizzy. Hello, dogs. Anytime we beat the Saints, it's a great week. As a season ticket holder, I got a perk where I got to go on the field after the Bears game. And I noticed how big/long our logo is in the middle of the field, which is great. Mr. Smith, you are great. You don't have to call me Mr. At these things, do we have the biggest in the NFL or college? And does the NFL have any regulations on size or anything? Just curious because they get picky with what kind of socks and cleats and gloves, etc. you can wear. Have a great week. Fire the cannons. Thank you, Michael Gizzy.
I think there is a rule of how big the logo can be.
I forgot to look this one up.
Yeah, but I think there's regulations on things that there's stuff you have to do. There's stuff that you can't have on the field. You can't have certain logos on the field. There is a compliance on how the stadiums need to be set up. I'm trying to think of who has I thought the Cleveland Browns elf was awful big on the field when we were there. I thought that was kind of big.
And that's kind of off to the side, right? It wasn't in the middle?
Yeah, and the Ravens is a good size because of, you got to get the beak and then the feathers at the back part. That's kind of a big one. Used to be in Carolina, it's a Panther thing.
Apparently it has to be approved by the commissioner, but there is no actual set length or size.
Okay. All right.
There probably is some sort of guidelines that the commissioner would be following, but it's not anything that's technically in the rule book. It just has to be approved by the league.
Huh.
So I don't know if it's the biggest one in all of football, in college, and the NFL, but I highly doubt it. I don't watch enough college football to be an expert on that.
No. Yeah, college football just is that's a whole other world to me.
I find it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Bad,
it's what I love about college football. It was like the LSU game, the Mississippi State or Southern Miss, where Lane Kiffin is. Anyways,
Ole Miss, I think
that game had like 1,200 yards together, and it was just like there was zero defense, and it was fun to watch because you knew whoever had the ball last was going to score.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about college.
You get those kind of games every now and then in college, that's for sure. All right, this is from Reese in the UK.
Okay.
Hello, salty ones. I've been listening to most of your podcasts for a long time now, and thought I'd be brave and actually make an attempt at writing an email that might make some conversation for yourselves and hear more great stories of your time covering the team. As a man that didn't start watching till 2015, he says in parentheses, Week 7 and the Kirk Cousins, you like that game, so not the best start to Bucs fandom.
Yeah.
I haven't been around as long as many fans of the team, so as a bit of history lover when it comes to my games, I'm wondering what your first games working for the Bucs were and your overriding memories of those games. P.S. A great start to the season, and I love how hard this team has fought. It's great to see the black and gold 94, that would be Cam Jordan, have to eat that L for his sniping these last few seasons. He reminds me of an 11-year-old boy being asked about girls anytime the Bucs are mentioned.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, Jeff, do you remember your first game working?
My first game working the Bucs or seeing the
Actually,
Bucs?
you can do both.
I can
because
do
you were a
both.
Bucs fan before.
Yeah, I could do both.
Was it on a date with Linda?
That was my first date with her, yes.
But it wasn't your first game?
No.
Okay.
No. My first game was, gosh, I don't remember who it was. But I can tell you my first working experience was in 1991. It was a preseason game at the old Municipal Stadium in Cleveland that was very, very old. And you talk about a bad elevator. It was a horrible elevator. And it was my first NFL game, and I was very, very excited that here I was doing an NFL game. And then I had never really been in a broadcast booth before at a football game. And this was a baseball stadium that they also did a football games in. And the booth was on top of the stadium, and it really was on top of the stadium, where he no longer exists, but where Chief Wahoo was sitting up there, and they had the emblem up there. That's how high it was on the stadium.
Okay.
The broadcast booths were doghouses. They were made out of plywood. Okay. So my first game, I have an engineer. I'm ready to go, and this and that. And I get to the game, and I walk in, and the engineer had set up in the wrong broadcast booth, and he had a bunch of wires sitting in the middle of the floor. From that game forth, I always go 5 hours early with the engineers to make sure they find the correct booth, put the wires the way they're supposed to be, and that was a lesson that I learned.
I can verify that he does that.
Yeah.
He takes the extra early bus every time.
And the reason for that is ultimately it is my responsibility, so I'd rather be there early and catch the error rather than coming in surprised like I was my first game. So.
I don't have a story for the first time watching a Bucs game as a fan in the stands because I've never done it. Mm-hmm. I've, in fact, never been to an NFL game as a fan.
Wow.
Every one I've ever been to, I was working.
Sure.
That's because I came from St. Louis. And if we had any money to spend on tickets, we were going to go to baseball.
Sure. No, I understand that.
I remember, I started in 92. I do remember that we beat the Cardinals, the Phoenix Cardinals as they were known then.
Yeah.
They were a pretty unremarkable team. I just looked it up. Their quarterback was Tim Rosenbaugh.
Oh, wow.
And Chris Chandler was actually there,
sure.
who was a former Buccaneer.
Yeah.
I could remember the score. It was 23-7, but there wasn't really anything special about that game, except I guess it was Sam Weich's first game as a coach, so it's cool to start off well.
Sure.
I much more remember the second game, which also was a home game, and it was against the Green Bay Packers, who at the time were not the Green Bay Packers that we know. They were not. They'd been bad for a pretty long time.
Right. Was this after Magic Man? Was he gone then?
Funny you should ask. The Magic Man is Don Majkowski, who is probably best known for being the Packers quarterback before Brett Favre.
Uh-huh.
He started that game. I don't know. I don't recall if we knocked him out or if he was pulled, but that gave Brett Favre his first chance to play.
Yeah. And
that was the last time Don Majkowski ever started a game. And the other reason I remember that game, we beat them pretty badly. Let's see what the score was. 31-3.
Yeah. Wow.
Two more things I remember about this. Brett Favre's, I think it was his first pass, it was completed to Brett Favre.
Oh, he got batted back.
He got batted down, and he caught it, and then was tackled for a loss of 7. Let me see if it was.
Do you remember that, or did you look that up?
I remembered that happened because it's a great.
It's a great trivia question.
It's a great trivia question. Sure. Who and it was his first pass. So Majkowski was sacked on the very last play of the first half. It's possible he got hurt on that play. That part I don't recall. Mm-hmm. But Favre started the second half, and his very first pass was tipped by Ray Seals, it says here, and he caught it.
Wow.
And the other reason I remember that game is Vinny Testaverde had completed 22 of his first 24 passes. This I didn't have to look up. I remembered. Uh-huh. And we believed that was the single game record for completion percentage, uh-huh. But communications and that kind of thing weren't as great in 1992. So we were trying to get the word down to the sideline in case they cared about that. And we didn't get it down there in time. He threw an incompletion. we finished 22 of 25 and didn't get the record.
That was back when they had a mimeograph machine.
We literally had a mimeograph machine. Do you want to tell somebody what a mimeograph machine is in case they don't know?
Google it.
Basically, it's this big drum that it's to make copies, and you're turning it, and it goes through ink.
Yeah, you have to pour the ink in, and it has an ungodly smell to it.
It did smell bad.
Yeah, I mean the guy that was
the chemicals.
The guy that was in there that did it always came out a little woozy.
And that's how he copied like play stats and stuff.
It was blue, and it didn't always hit correct.
Yeah.
It didn't hit evenly.
Right.
So sometimes you had to kind of fill in a number with a pen to make sure that it works.
We did go to a printer the next season.
But
that was my only season with a mimeograph. I know because I was the one who had we still didn't have a lot of printers, so we would carry the printer that we used in the office and PR over to the stadium.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that it doesn't seem that long ago, but I guess if you say 92, that's 32 years ago, whatever. How much technology has changed and how much technology has changed just by people's phones. The stuff that people have on their phones it would take you all night to compile.
Yeah.
You know, to have it for the next day for the coaches so they could grade their players. It's crazy.
I remember somewhere in this continuum, I started doing a lot of stat sheets that I had to update. And so Sunday night, after work and the various things we had to do, I'd go home and I'd work on a laptop at home or maybe my personal computer. I don't remember if I had a laptop then. And sometimes I'd get home and realize I'd forgotten a copy of the play-by-play with all the stats in it, and I'd have to drive back
in. Yeah.
Now I could just call it up and print it on my home printer.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I had to drive. I'd go be like, oh, I can't believe this. Giselle, I have to go back to the office just to pick up this paper.
It's funny because the way technology has changed, I used to do interviews and then have to drive back to the radio station to drop it off. Yeah, well, you had to drop them off or you had to put them on, and now you do that stuff all in your office, off your laptop. In fact, I was doing editing on stuff on the bus in New Orleans off my phone.
Okay.
Crazy.
We have 4 more questions. I don't know if we'll get through them all.
Oh, yeah, we have time.
Okay. This one is from another fan in UK named Simon. He says, good morning / afternoon / evening to you both. I'm writing this on Victory Monday from Norwich, England. I'm going to assume that's pronounced Norwich. Maybe it's Norwich.
No, I'd say Norwich.
Fresh off the back of watching the Falcons flop at Wembley Stadium.
Oh, yes.
I've also just returned from Tampa, having watched my one Bucs game that I treat myself to each year. The less said about that game, the better. So we know which one he went to.
Sure.
But I love my time in Tampa, as always. My question, what does a bye week look like for the players and for the coaches? Do the players simply get told, off you go, see you in a week, as that's almost what it sounded like in Coach Bull's victory speech? Are the coaches still allowed to work if the NFL says that players cannot keep up the great work and all the bits in between? Simon, a Bucs fan in the UK.
Yep. See ya, players. Come on back Monday.
That's not always the case.
No.
Teams they have to give them 4 consecutive days off.
And it has to be a Saturday and Sunday. Included.
So usually, if it has to be 4 consecutive, it has to be Saturday. I guess they could potentially go Friday through Monday.
Yeah. Or Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah. I'm saying that's the most common way to do it. Thursday through Sunday. So you can bring them in for, I guess, what you call bonus practices on like Tuesday and Wednesday. And we have done that.
Yep.
And it's possible there were 2 different plans here in place depending on if we won or lost.
Correct. And that always is, right?
I know there was with the previous coaching staff. I feel like they've been coming in at least for treatment and meetings on Mondays this year. Like hasn't been Victory Monday. Am I wrong about that?
There have been, but they still come in for treatment and a quick team meeting.
Okay, so they do have to come in.
Yeah, they do. Well, usually after every game, you have to if you have to come in for treatment.
Yeah, treatment. Yeah. But I'm talking about a meeting. If you're not hurt,
I think he always does a team meeting, doesn't he? Usually.
I think he does.
Yeah.
But this time, as you saw in his speech, he's like, "Yeah, well, you're done. You're done. You don't have to come here the whole week unless you're hurt. You got to come in.
Yeah.
You got to get your treatment, which obviously makes sense." He's like, at least take a jog. Take care of yourself, but try to keep your cardio up. But yes, the players will be coming back on Monday for a bonus day, and then they'll have Tuesday off, and then it'll be like a normal week.
Right. And this particular week, there aren't any real coaches meetings, but the coaches are already working on game and getting the stuff done. And
yeah, they're here. Mm-hmm. They were here today.
Yeah.
Now, if you see the schedule on the TV, which I don't have up at the moment, the coaches' dinner available was from 4 to 5. So I think they're working, but not necessarily burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, no. And that's good, too, because they get to recharge themselves.
What the coaches tend to do during the bye week a lot of the times is do a lot of self-scouting.
Yeah.
So they really pour through the tape the last 4 weeks and really hone in on what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, and mainly because they're doing that is because other teams are looking at their tape, too.
Everybody does it.
Yeah, everybody does it. So.
All right, this is Alexander in Brazil.
Oh, good.
Ahoy, salty ones. Hope this finds you both well. Great game and great timing for us to have a week off and healing. I have a rule question. With Baker being hit late after throwing a TD pass to Cade Otton, the Saints were penalized with 15 yards between downs. I thought those yards would be considered after their return, but as I realized later on, those yards were added before our kick. Kamara hit it from the 50 instead of our 35-yard line, which got me thinking that the penalty was ineffective, and it was a great deal for the Saints, who could have hurt our quarterback with a late hit. And he says, and speaking of a late hit, Lattimore got away with one on the sidelines hitting Mike. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did.
Is this rule right in your mind, or was it an option the Bucs had? Since you did, thanks for reading. Mm-hmm. I do not believe I believe the only other option there is you can take half the distance. You could take half the distance before the kick.
Right.
But teams generally figure they're going to make that, and they take the 15 yards on the kickoff. I can't say I disagree, Alexander. It's not a particularly effective penalty.
Yeah.
We threw a touchdown pass on the play. Had it been an incompletion, then it would have been a very difficult penalty because it would have been half the distance and an automatic first down.
Right.
That would have been big.
Huge.
But in this case, we got the kickoff from the 50, so you can easily get a touchback if you want, but that's no different than most kickoffs. You could try I think we pooched it a little bit.
We did.
And got him around the same spot we would have got him anyway. So I agree. But you can't really say, okay, we're going to take it at the end of the kickoff return, because what if they return it all the way for a touchdown?
And they do have a pretty dangerous returner.
So I don't think
being Saints.
I support the idea of possibly a different rule here, but I don't think you can do it that way. And it may just be that that's kind of a fluky situation where it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Elliot Lovejoy, the co-host at that radio show in
New Zealand, Australia. Australia. He's a presenter.
Hey, gents. Hope you had a great week. Awesome win for the boys yesterday. We talked about your podcast and our show this week. Thought you might like to hear, and he attached a clip for us here. There's not really a way to make that work right here.
There is. How long's the clip? I mean,
I'm looking. I'm opening it now.
Yeah, open it and just tell me how long it is. A reason for it is I can drop it in when we get done here.
It's 2.5 minutes.
Okay, what I'll do is that's okay. You can stop it, and what I'll do is
you'll pick an excerpt from it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can even add the whole 2.5 minutes. I'll listen to it, but I'll dump it in. I'll do an edit.
Okay, I'll forward this to you.
Okay, thanks.
Triple M's Rush Hour.
AB producer Luke, I think I've stumbled upon something that is potentially AB. You're my future, and you know what? If that is our future, I'm pretty happy with it.
Can it not be anything weird?
No, it's just us spending a lot of time together, potentially too much. So,
you hate that. Why would you allow that?
Well, no, as in I could continue working with you for the rest of time because my paycheck's fat. So
is that the only reason?
Yeah, 100%. There's a podcast I listen to, and I don't listen to that many, but this one is my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers over in the States. Mm. There's a podcast with them called the Salty Dogs, and it's a bloke called Jeff and a bloke called Scott that do this podcast, and I think they've worked together for, I want to say, 20 plus years, and you can hear the love-hate in their voice, and every time I listen, I think, this is AB in my future. This is what it's going to look like in 20 years down the track.
Don't you think we're already there?
Well, that's what concerns me, right? Because these guys, as much as
it's taken a while to hate each other.
There's love-hate, and mainly love. We are there. So and maybe what I'll do, I'll send this audio to their podcast and they can answer it. Over the 20 years that pass and you and I are still working together, are we going to find that we actually end up loving each other more because of, I don't have a reason to insert here.
It's actually called Stockholm Syndrome. Right. We're trapped and we're forced to love each other.
So that's the same as Jeff and Scott.
Yeah.
I'm going to meet them when I go to the US.
Really?
So I'll get a photo of us in 20 years' time.
They're dudes, aren't they?
Yeah, but you're basically, you're one of the boys. That's a compliment. Hey, that's the ultimate compliment you could get. You know that. If you get called one of the boys by a boy, that's the ultimate
Just you have to
compliment.
say not physically at the end.
Not physically.
Okay,
You're
thank
very
you.
feminine in,
Thank you.
in body, but in heart and soul, you're one of the boys.
Yeah, we love you, but
And
you're a
Got
good
there at
bloke.
the end. This
Shout
is
out to
weird.
the Salty Dogs. Can we shout out another?
Yeah,
Sure we can.
totally. I actually want to listen to it. Is it good?
Well, I mean, if you love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yes,
No, I'm Philly Eagles.
they will not be happy hearing
Yeah,
that.
okay.
But that's okay.
Sorry,
we'll send it
guys.
to Jeff and Scott.
I can't go the same team as you. Plus, your team won recently. That would be like on the
Yeah.
ultimate bandwagon.
Well, Philly's kind of bandwagon because they played in the Super Bowl last year.
They did.
I wonder if they have a producer Luke on the Salty Dogs. I don't know.
Probably a silent producer like most producers are. I actually
You're a
sometimes
bit loud
don't know
for a
why
silent
I'm-
producer.
I don't know why I'm here sometimes. You're like, we need you in the studio. I'm like, oh,
Because
okay.
you do everything.
You hate coming in though. It is very apparent.
Okay, so that's cool. Really appreciate that. And we know we're going to get to actually see him. He's coming in for like the second to last game, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was a Christmas Eve game, wasn't it?
Oh, the Jacksonville game?
Jacksonville game. I thought that's what it was.
I'm forwarding this to you now.
Okay.
That's why there's a bit of
Oh, that's all right. Plenty of time. No
Okay.
worries. We can get it done.
All right, moving on now. Actually, two more.
Okay.
This one is from Mark Rice, who's the guy in Arizona who told me that Guaidos doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Gentlemen, there are a lot of questions surrounding the Bucs heading into the season, and some that still remain after 4 weeks. One question was answered this past Sunday, however, and he goes, "We dat." You know, who dat, we
Yeah,
dat.
yeah, I like
and man, that feels good.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to the remaining 13 games, I'd be curious to hear your off-the-cuff predictions for wins/losses. That's the only kind of predictions that Jeff does, by the way.
What's that?
Off the cuff. It's not like you're
Yeah.
going to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but I think we have a legitimate shot at finishing the season 13-4.
Wow.
Based on what we've been so far, and provided everyone stays healthy, knock on wood.
Wow.
Enjoy the bye and lead up to the throwback game. Thanks, Mark in Mesa, Arizona. Okay, I don't know if I'd call that crazy, but it is extremely aggressive
Very aggressive.
because I don't think we need to go through every single game.
No, but when you look at, you're going to be playing Buffalo.
We're
You
at
have the
Buffalo.
the 49ers at 49ers.
If you were to rank all three teams right now, Buffalo and San Fran would probably be two of the top three,
I would say.
and they are both on a road schedule.
But in fairness, though, the rest of the schedule, you don't really see world beaters. Now,
Well,
you don't
Detroit,
know, well,
Detroit's
that's
pretty
true.
good. They're
That's
living
true.
up to the
Yeah,
hype.
No, they are. So you don't, and you don't know who's going to be good and who's going to be bad later in the year. So there's that.
Yeah, Houston looked like a gimme. Now they look
No,
pretty.
they're
They look
good.
pretty frisky now.
Uh-huh.
Indianapolis has done some decent things.
Yep.
Green Bay, they're not terrible.
Oh, they're not terrible. No.
Jacksonville is
Well,
off to maybe a slower start than expected, but that game's in
oh
late
yeah,
December. They might be rolling by then.
sure. And you don't know the implications of playoffs at that time.
13-4 would mean we only lose 3 of the remaining 13 games. We'd have to go 10-3 the rest of the way.
Wow,
That's ambitious.
very ambitious. But you know what? If you don't dream, you don't get. So.
Well, I hope he's right.
I hope he's right.
I hope he's right.
I hope we get to come back and go, wow, can you believe he predicted that?
We'll read it again if that happens.
Sure, absolutely.
Mark Rice, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Okay, finally, from Stephen Larson from Amarillo, Texas.
Uh-huh.
And I'm pronouncing it correctly because he made a point to tell me pronounce Amarillo, not Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was listening to the podcast after the Philly game where you ragged on meetings. Just basically that meetings suck.
Yeah.
I thought you might like the attached, and it's an image. I don't know if you can see it from there. There's I guess those are otters.
Yeah, they look
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
in Otter News. It's a cartoon, and one of the otters with a green tie, his name is Brad, as it says on his coffee cup. He's holding up his hand, and then the other otter in a red tie is staring at him menacingly. And it says, the caption is, "The meeting was clearly over, yet Brad kept asking questions. Steve's feelings were telling him to punch Brad in the face." So I'm Steve in this scenario.
Yes, and I'm not Brad because
No, you're not Brad.
I don't ask very many questions.
There's some Brads here, though.
Oh yeah,
There are usually some Brads in our office.
and they're not named
Our
Brad
meetings.
in real.
I don't think we have. Well, Brad Berlin,
Yeah.
but I'm not talking about
No,
him.
he's not a question guy. He's a
That's our-
he's a get it guy.
that's our
All
head
the-
equipment guy.
Okay, our Brads are get it done guys.
Who's the other Brads?
Let's see. Who is the other Brad? Well, maybe okay, just the equipment guy. He's so good. I think there's more of them. he's a get-it-done guy.
You know, like Levante?
Yes. If you have an issue, he makes it happen. I don't think there are any other Brads.
I was just going to quickly go down them. See if we got any other Brads.
Well, that book isn't very accurate.
This is pretty new, Jeff. This isn't last year's. He's talking about the media guide I'm looking at, which has a staff listing.
Right.
Which generally, a year later, you can be looking through it and say, well, that guy doesn't work here anymore.
Right. That's it.
There's a Barry. There's a Brett.
Yep.
There's a Beth. Yeah, I don't think we have any other Brads.
Right.
If there is, yes, we do. We've already talked to him on this podcast. Brad Idzik.
Yes. So there you go. 2 Brads.
2 Brads. That's how much you need to hold up a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the last one.
Nice.
We've been talking for a while.
We have.
Thanks in part to our listeners who are doing a great job of keeping this conversation rolling.
That's actually the most fun I have with the listeners because they certainly, first of all, they take the effort to write, and that in itself means you're participating with us, and that's what we want. And second of all, I just like how it just out of random they come up. You know, I never know because I don't read the questions.
It's funny.
Sit here and wait for them.
It's sort of developing that there's a specific tenor to all the questions that's very – so like last week after the Philly game, a lot of the questions are like, I know that game we lost it, but I'm not upset. Yep. I think we're still fine. And then this one, they're all like, I'm so happy we beat the Saints. I can't stand those guys.
No, that's that.
The Rays are losing 4-0 now.
Yep. And so are we? We will do a Salty Dogs next week.
We'll try to get a guest.
Yeah, we'll try to. That will probably be a little later, probably late Wednesday.
We haven't done Trey Palmer yet.
No, we have not.
I hear he's very entertaining.
He is.
All right.
All right, we'll reach out to that. What else you got?
I'm done, Jeff.
All right, me too. Enjoy your bye week. Since you did.
You too.
Since you did, thanks for listening.